Hello there everybody, welcome back to the Groundswell Ecosystems YouTube channel, everyday and systemic steps to an eco-positive groundswell. I'm Nicola Kench and this is Green Education Counts, eco-education for all. Environmental education is a human right, you have the right to know. Firstly, I just want to say a big thank you to all the new subscribers. Like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and you'll get all videos ensuing for this project and for all of the other Groundswell Ecosystems projects. Thank you. Join me on this journey of learning, growth, sharing, and yes, caring. As I explained in the introductory video how this project works, there are 6 units in Green Education Counts. Unit 1 looks at the 3 key questions about the environment. What is global warming? What is the world doing about it? And what can you do about it? After you've watched this video, there's an electronic quiz just down in the description box below the video so you can test what you know. Likewise, there are downloadable workbooks on the www.groundswellecosystems.com website, and they include the assessment materials. Please remember that my goal with this project is to take very big ideas and bring them down to earth as much as possible. I am crunching big concepts, hopefully right into the palm of your hand. So, let's get started. Unit 1, the environment. 3 key questions. Question number 1, what is global warming? Big question. Simple answer. Here's our globe. Global warming is the average total increase of the Earth's temperature. The average total increase of the Earth's temperature. Now, if here we are, and for example right now I'm in Britain, in London, if we experience a 1 degree temperature difference locally in London, that's nothing. It's the same old jumper from yesterday. However, imagine if the whole world experienced a general average rise of temperature in average across the whole world of 1 degree in total. That, when you look at it, not in the local picture, but in the global picture, that is definitely a warmer Earth. So this is what global warming is by definition. It is a warmer average global temperature. So, what causes global warming? Well, global warming is caused by the greenhouse effect. What is the greenhouse effect? Anybody who's been into a greenhouse, Kew Gardens, botanical gardens, your greenhouse in your garden, you will experience that it is a hot place. The air and the heat is trapped in the greenhouse. What happens globally is we have something called the greenhouse effect. Now, what causes the greenhouse effect? The greenhouse effect is caused by the build-up of carbon dioxide and other gases like methane and CFCs underneath the Earth's protective ozone layer. The ozone layer is a thickened layer of the Earth's atmosphere to protect the Earth from the extraordinarily powerful sun's rays. What happens is that carbon dioxide, methane, CFCs, and other pollutants get trapped underneath this ozone layer. And what they do as greenhouse gases is they actually absorb heat back from the sun's rays, and they re-radiate that heat back into the Earth's atmosphere, causing this increase in global heat, which is global warming. they also burn holes in the ozone layer around the Earth. And this increases the strength of the Earth's rays down right into our land, into our Earth, into our atmosphere, creating global warming. So, the big question is, where do these pollutants, these greenhouse gases that reabsorb heat from the sun and keep it trapped in the Earth's atmosphere and weaken our ozone layer, where do these greenhouse gases come from? Well, primarily they come from the burning of fossil fuels. Okay? What is a fossil fuel? Well, it does what it says on the tin. Fuel that comes from fossils. Millions and millions of years ago, dinosaurs, animals, plants, etc. were all over our planet. When they died and different layers of civilization grew up over them, those fossils went deep into our Earth's layer and basically they turned to mush. Anybody ever had a compost bin? You leave those tomatoes for too long, they turn into literally another form. They turn into gas and they turn into oil. All right, they go mush, just like the compost box. All right. However, those fossil fuels are very, very, very energy-rich sources of carbon. And when we take those fossil fuels out of the earth and burn them, we can create energy by burning the fossil fuels to create electricity. Oil turns into petrol, etc. And we use our gas for cooking and heating, as in a gas boiler in your home. Right. So what happens is that these fossil fuels, in the form of oil, petrol, and gas, when burned, they give off as a byproduct carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is really the main greenhouse gas that is causing our problem with global warming and the greenhouse effect. So hence, our global warming problem comes from the burning of fossil fuels, basically put. Yes, this is our problem. Okay? We also know that the world depends on fossil fuels, largely for our electricity, our petrol, and our heating. Okay? We have this dependence on fossil fuels, which has created this build-up of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. This is why we talk about a carbon footprint. It means how much carbon dioxide are you individually creating through your life. Now, believe me, there are very, very, very few people, unless you live off the grid, literally out on the wilds on your own, who will not have a carbon footprint of one form or another. Right? Our point really about this whole program is looking at what to do about that and how we can change into a safer world in the future. So now we know that our Earth is hotter. The big question is this: by how many degrees are we currently hotter than before machines were invented and we started basically doing everything very, very quickly for large amounts of people, before industrialization? The difference now between before, when machines were invented, is 1 degree. The world is 1 degree hotter right now. The maximum that we can safely go to is 1.5 degrees. That's our maximum safety. All right. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about what are the effects of global warming. Well, here we go. Right at the top of the Earth up here, the North Pole and the South Pole, we have a lot of ice. We basically have the ice caps. And we all know what happens on a hot day with a bit of ice. It melts. Okay? So imagine huge chunks of ice here at the top and the bottom of the Earth are melting. All right? What's going to happen to the sea level? it is going to get higher. Okay? The sea level will rise. And the effect of that is flooding. Witness the floods we saw in the UK last year, the floods we've seen in Europe this year. Okay, there is an increase in flooding. Secondly, what happens due to the increase in the world's temperature in general is that in fact dry areas are more likely to combust into big fires. All right, witness, for example, the fires in Australia and the fires in Greece. Big, barely controllable, very frightening fires. So we've got melting of the ice cap, so we've got floods, and we've got the heating up of our atmosphere, which increases the likelihood of big fires. What we also have with all this change of temperature is we have a knock-on effect with the seasons. And when the seasons change, that affects two things heavily, let alone us as humans. It affects plants and animals heavily because they are dependent on the regularity of the seasons to grow properly, all right, and to live safely in what we call an animal habitat. Yes. So there are these knock-on effects. And of course, if we can't grow our plants properly, effectively, we have a problem possibly with our food supply. So we do have huge consequences and big problems that happen for our future in the problem that is global warming. And that is why scientists are saying we cannot go higher than 1.5 degrees safely. We are already at 1 degree, and that is causing us a lot of problems. What's it going to be like at 1.5? Higher than 1.5, we cannot safely go. So that's our first question answered. Number 1, what is global warming? Our second question, number 2, is, very importantly, critically importantly, what is the world doing about it? Well, for starters, scientists have known since the mid-20th century that we do have a problem with the burning of fossil fuels and the effects of this with the carbon dioxide and other pollutants that are released, and subsequently the greenhouse effect and global warming. Scientists have known about this for a very long time. In 2015, 197 countries came together and signed the Paris Agreement, which looked to keep our global warming under control to the extent that it would not rise above our highest safe degree, which is 1.5 degrees Celsius. Higher than that, we cannot safely go. This agreement was signed in Paris in 2015 globally, with countries asking them to change their manufacturing processes, to change their laws, to move away from fossil fuels as a daily living source for civilization and into safe sources of our power, safe sources of energy, renewables, the sun, the wind, the water, and to change our production lines so that we move away from our dependence on fossil fuel and fossil fuel byproducts, including plastic. This happened in 2015 with really the globe, 197 countries out of 198. The contributions for each country's reduction in carbon emissions is a voluntary target. Countries can choose themselves how much carbon they intend to reduce. Of course, this leaves things in a kind of a grey area where there are no direct international legal obligations for the reduction of carbon other than a voluntary agreement from the countries involved in the 2015 Paris Agreement. So what happens? The Conference of the Parties meets, otherwise known as COP. 2021, it's COP26. What this means is that all of the parties in the Paris Agreement come together and review their targets. They look at where their country stands, they look at the tons of carbon dioxide that are being emitted by the amount of cars that the country has, the manufacturing processes, they look at legislation, and they look at how to turn their country's infrastructure, everything that makes up their country, move it from fossil fuels into safe, green systems that rely on renewable power and have safe manufacturing systems as well, reducing pollutants in general. COP26 meets to review these targets. 2021, COP26, a very important COP right now, the Conference of the Parties. Then we also have the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. You might have heard of it. What they do is that they are a global panel of scientists that don't do original research on global warming, but what they do is they bring together really the science globally around this issue. They review it, they check it, they look at global predictions for the effects of global warming, they look at alternative technology, and they examine solutions with great intensity. So that's what we have. Following the last IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report in 2021, really the outcome of that report was that we cannot safely at all go above 1.5 degrees. So there is a great degree of urgency right now in moving countries forward towards a safe, green, and a renewable-based industrial base, moving towards environmental education, changing manufacturing systems, and greening the power grid, greening the electricity grid. We need to do this at haste. The third key question, after we've looked at what is global warming, what is the world doing about it, the third key question is, very, very, very importantly, is what can you do about it? Now again, as I said in the introductory video, how does this project work? You must understand that every single person on this planet is important. Every single person on this planet is responsible in some way for creating a safe future. This whole project looks at ways to get environmental education out to anybody and everybody, to make it understood for all with the certainty and clarity of knowledge, not just being a good person or a bad person or having the right attitude, of knowledge about really what you can do. This is exactly what this entire educational program is about. Unit 1 looks at the environment 3 key questions. What is global warming? What is the world doing about it? And what can you do about it? Unit 2 looks at power, fossil fuels versus renewables. Unit 3 looks at consumption. What do we use and how do we use it? Unit 4 looks at waste, making our waste useful. Unit 5 looks at protection. What do we protect and why do we need to protect it? Unit 6 looks at going forward, understanding social units and understanding how you count and you can make a difference. So really, the message that came through from the last IPCC report of 2021 is very simple. Keep 1.5 alive. We are safe with a 1.5 degree increase just within our safety levels. So the message globally is keep 1.5 alive. In terms of what can you do about it? First of all, I want to talk about social units, and then I want to talk about key questions. I've broken this down into social units. The individual, that's you, your home, your partner, your siblings, your family, your friends, your acquaintances. Your unit in that way. Then I've looked at your school, your business, your place of work, your university, your college, all right, a step wider. Then I've looked in the London context at your local governance. So in London they are boroughs, your borough. Then I've looked at the next step, your city. What's your city's plan? Then we look at the country. What's your country's plan? Then we look at what's the globe's plan. Okay, so we have all of these social units. What I want to leave you with at the end of this program is a sense very specifically of what you can do on a day-to-day basis in terms of habit change and in terms of how you plug in to the country's infrastructure. Where do you get your power from? How do you travel? What do you eat? How do you buy clothes? all of the day-to-day things that make up our lives, and understanding that sustainability doesn't make us poorer, it makes us richer, because what we have is about maintaining permanence, reducing a culture of waste. It means more. Sustainability is also affordability very often. Affordable options come through sustainable options, solar power, hydropower, wind power. Yes, you will also be left with the key questions. Where does your power come from? What are you consuming and how? How are you managing your waste? What do we need to protect and what kind of role can you play in that? And lastly, understanding the mechanics of things like divestment, how to take your money away from fossil fuels, a transition economy, how do we move from a fossil fuel based money system into a safe, green, renewable money system, the eco pound, all right, and understanding how you have power as a consumer to actually change things. Yes, this educational program covers all of these issues regarding the big picture, habit change, plugging into your local systems, asking key questions, and making the changes that you can model to teach others as well. It's not about denial, it's about enrichment, and it's about safety, a safe future. So there we go. Thank you for watching. You know that there's an electronic quiz right here in the description box below this video if you want to quickly check yourself on what you know. I want to make this as simple and as accessible for anyone. If you want to download the workbook for each unit, go to the www.groundswellecosystems.com website. All right, and we will move forward step by step, crunching the big picture right into the palm of your hand. Every single one of us has a place in contributing to a safe future. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notifications bell. You'll see all the videos coming out for every single unit, along with all of the assessment materials. Thank you for watching. This is the Groundswell Ecosystems YouTube channel, Everyday and Systemic Steps to an Eco-Positive Groundswell. I'm Nicola Kench, and this is Green Education Counts, Eco-Education for All. Environmental education is a human right. You have the right to know. This has been Unit 1, the environment, 3 key questions. What is global warming? What is the world doing about it? And what can you do about it? Unit 2 is power, looking at fossil fuels versus renewables. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Groundswell Ecosystems, everyday and systemic steps to an eco-positive groundswell.